Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I am back with another ancient lore. Today we are diving back into and finishing up the Kybalion, the works of the three initiates. We will be reading through and discussing on the back end, but if you are unfamiliar with the teachings thus far, there may be things that throw you off. It is highly recommended that you begin at the beginning. There is a link at the top that will take you to the beginning of this particular study and several other studies that may give you more insight into why I think the way I do and say the things that I say. Uh, it is highly recommended if you don't want to watch the whole playlist of anything that you at least watch the 8 laws of creation. There is a lot explained in there that you can absolutely make use of in your life. With that being said, we are going to dive into chapter 15, the final chapter, Hermetic Axioms. The possession of knowledge, unless accompanied by manifestation and expression in action, is like hoarding of precious metals, a vain and foolish thing. Knowledge, like wealth, is intended for use. The law of use is universal. He who violates it suffers by reason of his conflict with natural forces. The Kybalion. The Hermetic teachings, while always having been kept securely locked up in the minds of the fortunate possessors thereof, for reasons which we have already stated, were never intended to be merely stored away and secreted. The law of use is dwelt upon in the teachings, as you may see by reference to the above quotation from the Kybalion, which states it forcibly. Knowledge without use and expression is a vain thing, bringing no good to its possessor or to the race. Beware of mental miserliness, and express into action that which you have learned. Study the axioms and aphorisms, but practice them also. We give below some of the more important Hermetic axioms from the Kybalion, with a few comments added to each. Make use of your own, make these your own, and practice and use them, for they are not really your own until you have used them. All right, we are going to differ here than the way we have before, because I haven't read through this, but this is spurring me into something different. What has just been stated, right, is covered in the laws. Let me pull up the laws for y'all real quick. I should be able to do that fairly quickly. Here we go. All of this is summed up into the law of the one. All things are the one, and nothing can be created or destroyed, merely transferred. Everything is in a constant state of transfer. There is nothing but movement in the universe. There are moments of stasis, but there is never true stasis. There is always change. Everything is always moving. I know Brett Weinstein is going to disagree with me on that, but that is okay. There is vibration in every atom. I'm not claiming to be a super mathematician. I don't have to be to understand this basic concept. Atoms move at a molecular level. They are held together by something that we do not fully comprehend. I believe it is the electromagnetics generated by the 7 chakras in coordination with the 8th, which holds you into the being that you are. We will get back into that in a minute, but this, so far, has been contained within the law of the one. They use different laws, they use different principles, but these 8 laws, the ones that were given to me, all of this fits into. My laws don't fit into their principles. Their principles fit into my laws. And that's not me in the greater sense. That is, it was given to me in order to show to other people. It was probably given to other people as well, and they just didn't show it. All right, now we're going to go through and we will be talking about these different sayings for the most part as we go along. I think some of them I will have more to add to than others. I am sure I haven't read through them, so I don't know what they all are, but I am sure there will be discussion here. To change your mood or mental state, change your vibration. One may change his mental vibrations by an effort of will, in the direction of deliberately fixing the attention upon a more desirable state. Will directs the attention, and attention changes the vibration. Cultivate the art of attention by means of the will, and you have solved the secret of the mastery of moods and mental states. It really is that simple, right? The power of perspective is an amazing thing. I have told this story before. It is the first one in the Infinite Integrations playlist, but I had trouble walking, right? I got in an accident, and I became an injured person. I'm trying to use past tense on that. I became an injured person, and it affected me in numerous ways. And one of those ways was the way that I walked. There are basically two different ways that people propel themselves by means of self automation, right? On Mo and Joe. It is a controlled fall, right? The natural state of the human is how babies walk on their hands and feet. To learn to walk, you either learn to fall forward or fall slightly backwards, right? It's like walking uphill and walking downhill. You naturally have a gait that matches one of those two. You sometimes alter it in situational places. But naturally, you either have a gait where you are pushing yourself into the future, or you were kind of like falling into the future. That's how I had to get it in my mind. I naturally am inclined to push, right? I walk forward. My body is forward of my center of gravity. I am pushing with my legs as I go from behind. I was able to change my perspective. And after my injury, right, I started walking for my children, and it took me 45 minutes to do the first mile. Like once I finally started timing it, it took me 45 minutes, and part of that was my perception. The way that I was walking was affecting me. My muscles don't work in the same way that they did. They are still there, they are still functional, but they sometimes do things on their own, and that is one of those things that I am trying to manifest away, and it's happening, but it's not fast enough for me. Oh, but by shifting my focus while I was walking from pushing forward to falling into, like I'm walking downhill as opposed to walking uphill, I was able to get rid of the limp. The shift in perspective in how I was walking took away something in my back that was causing me problems. It didn't make things easy. It still hurt a lot. It still hurts currently quite a bit, but it is manifesting better. That is happening. I am getting better. These things I am telling you are really happening in my life. The fact that I can talk to you like this at all is already a manifestation come true. The building of stamina, if you go through these videos, I can talk a little bit longer like this. All of that is part of the plan and the timing, but the manifestation was the removal of the cyst in my throat that caused my vocal cords not to talk in this tone at all. I am getting my voice back. I am getting my back back. I am getting my shoulder back. These things are happening in my life, and it is through shifting my perception, through taking the thing that was terrible and looking at it through the lens of possibility and acting upon it. You're also not meant to keep the knowledge secret, right? For generations, this particular knowledge has been dispensed face to face. We talked about this in the beginning video, and we'll talk about it here. I am bypassing a lot of the safeguard measures that are in place. It's unavoidable for what I have been told to do. I am talking from direct revelation. If that's too much for you, you're already on the wrong video. I am to give this information. I'm not here to convince you of it. I tell you all that all the time. I am here to expose the things that have been exposed to me and mostly just let it lie. That is what is being said here. We have a greater capacity now to dispense knowledge. Part of that will be that people are going to misuse that knowledge. I direct you to the 8 laws of creation for a reason. It is first and foremost for your benefit
to watch that video and work in accordance with the laws of creation because it is for your benefit. But you have the ability to not. This information that I am putting out is freely available, but almost nobody is going to watch it. I know that going in, right? This is not about monetary gain. This is about the dispensal of information. And because of that, I live within the 8 rules of creation, which you should check out so that you don't have any repercussions. Me directing you to the 8 laws of creation, it's me taking the responsibility for your safety in a way that absolves me from your misuse of my knowledge. It's the exact same as it would be in a face to face situation, and you manage to deceive me and receive the knowledge in a bad way. Regardless, it's not coming back on me because I tried my best to not let you hurt yourself by directing you to the 8 laws of creation. Changing your perception and using the knowledge by which you are now responsible. This is levels of responsibility. We talk about that all the time because it is true. Once you are aware of the knowledge, you are responsible for the knowledge, both for its dissemination and its practical application. It is up to you to verify anything that I say. Never take me for granted. I am dispensing things that are freely available. I am never going to, I'm not going to say I'll never have a class or anything like that because God hates when I say never. He likes to make it different, but I don't like that, right? Anything that I ever have a class or a thing on will be freely available on the internet. I can help better in face to face, but it is impractical to help everybody face to face. You are responsible for the level of knowledge that you have.
The measure by which you measure will be the measure by which you are measured. That is the key axiom to everything. Once you have the knowledge of the measure, you will be measured by a new measure. Once you have the knowledge that I have placed upon you and you go out and lie and cheat and steal, the consequences are magnified. It's just part of it. I warned you by directing you to the other videos. If you know that your actions have direct results and you choose to ignore that, it is not my fault that you accepted the multiplication. All right, I think we can move on to the next one.
One may change his mental vibrations by an effort of will in the direction of deliberately fixing the attention upon a more desirable state. Will directs the attention, and attention changes the vibration. Cultivate the art of attention by means of the will. We read that, but you have solved the mastery of moods and mental states. Find the lesson in the problem.
To destroy an undesirable rate of mental vibration, put into operation the principle of polarity and concentrate upon the opposite pole to that which you desire to suppress. Kill out the undesirable by changing its polarity. This is one of the most important of the Hermetic formulas. It is based upon true scientific principles. We have shown you that a mental state and its opposite were merely two poles of one thing, and that by mental transmutation the polarity might be reversed. This principle is known to modern psychologists who apply it to the breaking up of undesirable habits by bidding their students to concentrate upon the opposite quality. If you are possessed of fear, do not waste time trying to kill out this fear, but instead cultivate the quality of courage, and the fear will disappear. Some writers have expressed this idea most forcibly by using the illustration of the dark room. If you do not have to shovel out or sweep out the darkness, but by merely opening the shutters and letting in the light, the darkness has disappeared. To kill out a negative quality, concentrate upon the positive pole of that same quality, and the vibrations will gradually change from negative to positive, until finally you will become polarized on the positive pole instead of the negative. The reverse is also true, as many have found out to their sorrow when they have allowed themselves to vibrate too constantly on the negative pole of things. By changing your polarity, you may master your moods, change your mental states, remake your disposition, and build up character. Much of the mental mastery of the advanced Hermetics is due to this application of polarity, which is one of the important aspects of mental transmutation. Remember the Hermetic axiom, quoted previously, which says, mind, as well as metals and elements, may be transmuted from state to state, degree to degree, condition to condition, pole to pole, and vibration to vibration.
We've already talked.
We've already talked significantly about using your tools, right? You have access to 7 chakras within yourself and 1 without yourself. And each one of those you are able to flex, and each one of those in you specifically represents one of the virtues and vices. That's where I differ in large part from a lot of different people. I believe that everybody's individual chakras are aligned with their personality. It's what holds you together, right? I have a whole system where I talk about that, and it is not MBTI like you have ever seen it before. I say that quite a few times in there, and nobody ever believes me, but I have changed definitions. I have moved some things around to make it fit, because it is very much, seems to me, I can't say definitively because I have not done extensive studies on this, right? This is entirely experiential and has proven true everywhere that I have applied it in my own life, and several other people have had the same results. But I cannot say axiomatically that it is 100% true, but it appears to be that each one of your internal corresponds to a different part. Well, all 8 of them correspond to a different part, but the cleansing of each one of the individual auras depends in large part on what you have in that particular position, because that is where the focus seems to fall for you, right? It's where it fell for me. It's where it fell for my wife, for several other people in our life. And so I'm not going to dig into the specifics of that there. It is a big one, right? Infinite integrations goes through this, and it is how you can figure out where to balance your chakras. A lot of people talk a whole lot about the visualization of just cleansing and bringing in the light, and that's a stopgap. It is. The hard part is determining exactly where you are getting hung up. Like, nobody else can cleanse that for you. Nobody else can do that for you. There's a lot of people who will tell you they can. There are people who can tell you where the problem lies, but they can't do the internal work for you. The internal work lies in figuring out, oh, wow, I've got an SI demon. That means I'm going to be really, really bad at organization, and I'm probably going to get caught up in the sensations, right? Or I have a TI child, which means I'm going to get really defensive over the thoughts of my own logic patterns. And my throat is where that's going to manifest itself, and that's going to cause me problems in my throat chakra. So I'm going to have to work on that so I can understand that this problem lies here with my logic and people attacking that and me getting defensive over that. When you can internalize those things and identify those things, you can start seeing the poles through which you need to do the polarity, right? Wrath and love are 2 keys to a pole. Lust and I got a cheat sheet over there, but like each one of the vices has one of the virtues attached to it. I have a video on that, and each one of them you are supposed to balance. You are not supposed to be exclusively away from any of them. You are supposed to balance all of them, and that is how you balance your staff. SI tends to be towards the lust side, right? Or lust and chastity. That's the two extremes there. And so it is about balancing your sexual life. Whereas somebody else has a different problem in that particular area, and it's about their thoughts being out of control and not being able to shut up in their own head, right? That's where this lies. That's where you can find the balance that they're putting here. Now you can do this and it will work, right? You can identify, I'm getting angry, let me focus on love. I'm getting horny, let me focus on chastity, right? All of these things you can do here, but it is more effective if you know where in particular it's happening. And once you figure out your stack, you can literally feel it hit the chakras, right? You get mad and you feel it hit the appropriate spot, and it's like, oh, wow, that's pretty crazy. And it's not just me, this has happened for other people. Then you can do the mental transmutation necessary to take it from horny to chastity, right? To take it from greed to charity. You can do the mental work that takes it to balance that out. Some people have a problem with too much virtue, right? Vows of celibacy for the entirety of your life is not how you're meant to live. If you were meant to live that way, you would not be given sexual organs. It would not be pleasurable, right? You're not supposed to give away everything that you own. That is quite silly. I understand trusting in God. That is a thing. You absolutely should do that. You shouldn't hold on to things so tightly that it becomes your idol. But you should not give away everything so much that it becomes your idol as well. It is all about the perspective through which, the lens through which you use to filter your reality, the things that you see. You can see a situation, and I can see a situation, and we can take away from that situation two completely opposite things that happened. The mastery of polarization is the mastery of the fundamental principles of mental transmutation or mental alchemy. For unless one acquires the art of changing his own polarity, he will be unable to affect his environment. An understanding of this principle will enable one to change his own polarity, as well as that of others, if he will but devote the time, care, study, and practice necessary to master the art. The principle is true, and the results obtained depend upon the persistent patience and practice of the student. Rhythm may be neutralized by an application of the art of polarization, the Kybalion.
As we have explained in previous chapters, the Hermetists hold that the principle of rhythm manifests on the mental plane as well as on the physical plane, and that the bewildering succession of moods, feelings, emotions, and other mental states are due to the backward and forward swing of the mental pendulum, which carries us from one extreme of feeling to the other. The Hermetists also teach that the law of neutralization enables one, to a great extent, to overcome the operation of rhythm in consciousness. As we have explained, there is a higher plane of consciousness, as well as the ordinary lower plane, and the master, by rising mentally to the higher plane, causes the swing of the mental pendulum to manifest on the lower plane, and he, dwelling in this higher plane, escapes the consciousness of the swing backward. This is effected by polarizing on the higher self and thus raising the mental vibrations of the ego above those of the ordinary plane of consciousness. It is akin to rising above a thing and allowing it to pass beneath you. The advanced Hermetist polarizes himself at the positive pole of his being, the I am pole, rather than the pole of personality, by refusing and denying the operation of rhythm, raises himself above its plane of consciousness, and standing firm in his statement of being, he allows the pendulum to swing back on the lower plane without changing his polarity. This is accomplished by all individuals who have attained any degree of self-mastery, whether they understood the law or not. Such persons simply refuse to allow themselves to be swung back by the pendulum of mood and emotion, and by steadfastly affirming the superiority they remain polarized on the positive pole. The master, of course, attains a far greater degree of proficiency because he understands the law which he is overcoming by a higher law, and by the use of his will he attains a degree of poise and mental steadfastness almost impossible of belief on the part of those who allow themselves to be swung backward and forward by the mental pendulum of moods and feelings. Remember always, however, that you do not really destroy the principle of rhythm, for that is indestructible. You simply overcome one law by counterbalancing it with another, and thus maintain an equilibrium. The laws of balance and counterbalance are in operation on the mental as well as on the physical planes, and an understanding of these laws enables one to seem to overthrow laws, whereas he is merely exerting a counterbalance.
This, again, has a lot to do with your mental state, how you particularly view things. But a lot of it is getting swept up in emotion, right? There is a lot of that happens these days. There is a lot of people who get very tied into my thing, right? Whatever your thing happens to be, it can be religion. There's a lot of people really tied into Catholicism, really tied into Protestantism, really tied into Islamicism, and really tied into whatever else there happens to be. There are a myriad of others. They get really tied into those things, and they get really swept up by the things that are affecting their thing. That goes the same for politics. My left side, my right side. Ooh, right? It's hard to find people who are middle. It is increasingly difficult to do so because people are very much affected by the pendulums. You can choose, however, despite the fact that you are affected emotionally by the things that are being said, choose not to react. You can choose to remain at a higher plane of vibration than they are attempting to pull you down to. When you see the thing that gets you really mad, try not to. I'm guilty as everybody else of not doing that, right? I get mad. My neighbor next door is crazy. And so I really think that he is there for a trial for me to learn to be a little bit more patient and get over this anger issue that I've got. But it's the same for everyone, right? Everyone has a tendency to get swept up with my thing. The thing to remember, and it's extremely difficult to remember, is that thing is not you. You may be a part of that thing, but that thing is not you. You are not your religion. You are not your political party. You are not your job. You are not your family. You are you. You are the individualized piece of God who resides inside the meat suit, who makes the decisions that are carried out through the will of the Holy Spirit. That is who you are. All of those things are tests. Every single one of them is a lesson, and every single one of them has something for you to learn from. And if you can isolate yourself from the feelings and bring yourself into the fact, and to understand that there is a lesson here, what is it and how can I apply it immediately to my life? That is the mental transmutation that this entire book is trying to tell you about. All right. Nothing escapes the principle of cause and effect, but there are many planes of causation, and one may use the laws of the higher to overcome the laws of the lower.
The Kybalion.
By an understanding of the practice of polarization, the Hermetists rise to a higher plane of causation, and thus counterbalance the laws of the lower planes of causation. By rising above the plane of ordinary causes, they become themselves, in a degree, causes instead of merely caused. By being able to master their own moods and feelings, and by being able to neutralize rhythm, as we have already explained, they are able to escape a great part of the operations of cause and effect on the ordinary plane. The masses of people are carried along obedient to their environment, the wills and desires of others stronger than themselves, the effects of inherited tendencies, the suggestions of those about them, and other outward causes, which tend to move them about on the chessboard of life like mere pawns. By rising above these influencing causes, the advanced Hermetists seek a higher plane of mental action, and by dominating their moods, emotions, impulses, and feelings, they create for themselves new characters, qualities, and powers, by which they overcome their ordinary environment, and thus become practically players instead of mere pawns. Such people help to play the game of life understandingly, instead of being moved about this way and that way by stronger influences and powers and wills. They use the principle of cause and effect instead of being used by it. Of course, even the highest are subject to the principle as they manifest on the higher planes, but on the lower planes of activity, they are masters instead of slaves. As the Kybalion says, the wise ones serve on the higher, but rule on the lower. They obey the laws coming from above them, but on their own plane and those below them, they rule and give orders. And yet, in so doing, they form a part of the principle instead of opposing it. The wise man falls in with the law, and by understanding its movements, he operates it instead of being its blind slave. Just as the skilled swimmer turns this way and that way, going and coming as he will, instead of being as the log which is carried here and there. So is the wise man as compared to the ordinary man, and yet both swimmer and the log, wise man and fool, are subject to the law. Who understands this well is on the road to mastery. The Kybalion. There's not a whole lot to add to that we did not just talk about, right? This is exactly what I was just saying. In conclusion, let us call your attention to the Hermetic axiom. True Hermetic transmutation is a mental art, the Kybalion. In the above axiom, the Hermetists teach that the great work of influencing one's environment is accomplished by mental power, the universe being wholly mental. It follows that it may be ruled only by mentality, and in this truth is to be found an explanation of all the phenomena and manifestations of the various mental powers which are attracting so much attention and study in these earlier years of the 20th century. Back of and under these teachings of the various cults and schools remains ever constant the principle of the mental substance of the universe. If the universe be mental in its substantial nature, then it follows that mental transmutation must change the conditions and phenomena of the universe. If the universe is mental, then mind must be the highest power affecting its phenomena. If this be understood, then all the so-called miracles and wonder workings are seen plainly for what they are. The all is mind, the universe is mental. The Kybalion, Finis. And so ends the Project Gutenberg ebook, The Kybalion. The link is provided down below for you. Go back and read it for yourself and to understand the things that we talked about. I'm going to wrap this up, right?
I am physically manifesting healing in my life. That is a step too much for some people, but for some people, they're like, wait, what? It is a truth. I am not here to bullshit you. I am not here to pull your leg. I am not trying to sell you anything. You hear my voice go out on the top end, but that is still a blessing. I am manifesting my voice. I have been able to sing in my natural voice, not with my full power yet, but that is coming. I cried for myself because I could sing for the first time in years. The fact that I can talk in this tone of voice and you can hear me on this mic this far away is a blessing that was not here a year ago. You could still hear me. I could talk, but I had to keep it way up here, and my voice got really tired after 10 minutes. I can talk for 2 hours now. I can't talk here for 2 hours, but I can do here for between 10 and 15 minutes most days, early in the morning until it gets tired, and it's increasing. I am manifesting physical healing in my body. I had 13 discs that were either herniated or bulging, 3 of them impinging my spinal cord. I have not been back for an MRI. I'm not saying that I am completely healed in that manner, but they don't affect me the way that they did. There is still pain in my life. I am not fully healed of anything, but it is healing. I had problems with my shoulder a few months back, but I really do believe that is correcting something that happened during a surgery I had years ago. It's getting better, and it shouldn't be. There are physical manifestations of healing in my life. I haven't healed other people. I'm a little bit nervous to try. I believe the things I tell you.
There is absolutely nothing to make me special. I am but a child of God, given powers, it seems, by God. But if I am, then you are too. There is no special people. There are no chosen people. He can choose a person because they are faithful and through them do wonderful things. But it's not because of their bloodline. It's not because of who their ancestor was. It is because of who they choose to be now. You have the ability to choose to serve God in fullness, to be the person that you have been called to be. That is somebody completely different from me. Some of you may have your own channels to make, right? Some of you may never make those channels, but you now have knowledge that other people do not. You can indeed change your life for the better. That is the entirety of the goal for what I do here, right? For what I invest my energy in is for us all getting better. I see that not just in myself, but I see the manifestations of the things that I am working towards: freedom, prosperity, all of these things that I pray for actively, out loud, every single day, with power and intention, in my fullness of the chakras, right? I am manifesting peace, love, forgiveness, prosperity, and freedom. And I see the manifestations happen. I see the Supreme Court ruling for go back to the Constitution. I see narratives falling slap apart. You can say that it is hubris, but I say that it is because of the prayers that I gave to my God, and He handled the business. I'm not asking Him to handle it in a specific manner. I am asking for those 5 things. There are specific things that I ask for, but most of those are for other people, right? And specificity for their lives. Those 5 things I pray for in general every single day for every single person on this planet, right? I do my city, my state, my country, and the rest of the world, so that we can all have what I have. I see the power of these things happening in real time, and you don't have to believe that. I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to tell you. I'm okay with being called crazy. I know that I get called crazy all the time. I know that there are people who will absolutely, completely dismiss everything I say, and that is perfectly fine with me. You can call me all kinds of crazy names. I will probably block you. But if you have respectful disagreements, we can talk about them. But I'm not here to be convinced any more than I was in the Bible study. I'm not asking questions here. This is a discussion in part because I am discussing and I am open to being corrected. If someone has something that I have not considered and that has not been revealed to me, I will take it into consideration. I will always hold the possibility that I am wrong, even for things that I have direct revelation on. But I will continue to do this. I do feel like what we are doing here is important. I am going to teach you how to make magic happen in your life. That is already been discussed multiple times. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a series of difficult topics. If you have questions, leave them down below. I will try to clarify them. If you have comments, whether you agree or disagree, leave them down below. That is what we are here for. Like, yeah, I honestly ask all the time to be corrected. Literally every day. I pray for those 5 things every day, and I ask for correction. If I am wrong, show me, O Lord. Let it be. I follow where you lead. And you don't have to believe that, but it is absolute truth. I am willing to be corrected, but I am being led in a direction, and I have to walk it. The manifestation, the blessings that my God has put on me for following His will are too great to not. If you like what I'm doing here, let me know down below. Give me a like, share, and a sub. Throw me a comment. And if you really like what I'm doing, hit me with the super thanks. It will be greatly appreciated. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pitt's Take. Peace.